home buyers are winning at the end of 2025. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski, and I want to talk to you about how some people are actively pursuing homes right now and getting great deals and winning, and that's pretty exciting. First thing that I would suggest to you is that anybody out there looking at a property in the month of December, turning down holiday parties and shopping and extra overtime at work, or all the things that keep you super busy, especially around the holiday. If you're out looking, you're probably pretty serious about making a purchase. And if that's the case, here's what's going on that I see that's really working. First thing is have your money ready. And I think we all know this, but we don't always all do it. So if you're a cash buyer, I think all you really need is like a bank statement or a screenshot to show the seller that you've got the money. And without that evidence, you may not get the best possible deal. So sharing that information absolutely is going to be in your best interest. Now, let's say you're financing. Do you have a pre-approval letter? Hopefully you've already talked to your bank. But if you haven't, that could get in the way or cause doubt on the part of a home seller that you can actually complete the purchase and close by the closing date of the contract that you're offering. It also would be different. See, pre-approval, a little bit different than pre-qualified or underwriting approval or any of those things. So let's say that you went the route of getting underwriting approval and you're pre-approved for the whole loan, not just pre-qualified. You've sent the bank statements, you've sent the pay stubs, the tax returns, or whatever else they're asking you for, and they've checked everything. That means you're likely to be able to close in 15 or 20 days because all you will need is your home inspection. Most people choose to do that, and an appraisal, for the bank to evaluate the property, make sure it's worth the price that you're paying. If you have a significantly large down payment, some banks actually have what they call an appraisal waiver, which means that your credit's really good, you got a big down payment, there's a lot of equity. They don't even need to do an appraisal sometimes. And having that in hand would be a big advantage to you of trying to convince the seller to agree to a price that you really like, that maybe is below their asking price by a little bit or even a lot of it. Now, what's also really good to point out is there are some sellers that just have to sell. And for many reasons, death, divorce, and getting married, and having kids, or empty nesters, or retiring, or getting that vacation home, or getting rid of the vacation home, or maybe an Airbnb property that they never ended up using their own, that didn't actually rent for a lot of money. I could go on. But there are some people just got to sell because if they close by December 31st, maybe something really good happens for them tax-wise. They get money on this year instead of next year. I guess the reverse works. Maybe they wanted to close on January 1st or after. So that way it goes further down the road. Maybe there's some capital gains in there. But knowing that, just when you're writing the offer and making sure, is there a closing date that makes sense to the seller, maybe for a reason I might not know about, but would it be important to close before December 31st or maybe after January 1st? I would include that because if there's a tax advantage in there and some savings that you can uncover for the seller but know about it, I think you can use that in negotiation and say, by the way, because you're going to save all this money on taxes, how about looking at my offer and I'll accommodate your closing date. If it helps you out financially, maybe we can help me out financially as well. You see, these are some of the things we're working on right now with our clients to make sure that they're getting the right house at the right price at the right time, but also giving us a leg up on the negotiation. So if we have our money and we know a little bit about the property and we know that the seller has a desire to sell on a specific date, that puts us further ahead than the cursory buyer that comes in and maybe just throws an offer in there to see what happens or just does a verbal offer. For me, a well-written offer with very few moving parts. It should only have a few things: the price, your escrow, the closing agent that, if you have the seller to pay for it and the closing agent, which is easy to find because you ask their agent. How many days for inspections? Most people choose to do them. Is there an appraisal contingency? Is there a financing contingency? Let's get that in there. You can work out the broker commissions. I don't think we need to talk about that. That's negotiable. We know that. And then the rest of it is anything else you need in there. If you need help with the closing costs, make it known up front. If you don't, say, listen, we have our money. We don't need any help with closing costs. We just want to buy the property for this price. What do you think? But putting it in writing, if it's actionable and a seller has it in front of them, that's more meaningful than a screenshot or a text message from their agent that says, hey, they're willing to offer you $300. And of course, if it's priced at $400, maybe that's not as compelling as a well-written offer that says, hey, we're willing to not only pay you this amount of money, but we can close on this date. It feels real, because if they sign it, it is real. And I do think that that's important. There's way too many verbal offers going back and forth right now, and it removes the opportunity for the seller to just say, you know what, I'll just take it. Where do I sign? As opposed to, well, it's a verbal offer, but then we find out all we knew was price. Well, now we have to get a loan or borrow some money or rent to own, or we got to close on a certain day. Is it contingent on the sale of a property? Do I have to cash out stocks or cash out a 401k? You know, that's a whole thing too. If you're thinking of using your 401k to purchase a property, you know there's taxes involved, right? Because you put it in pre-tax. And I've seen people, we're going to take out $300,000 out of our 401k. Like, not a problem, but you realize that you could have 20, 30% tax on that as well. And that's a big tax consequence. So let's not overlook that detail. If you're using an equity line in your home, how long will it take to get that done? And does that amount that you're taking out add a really big payment on top of what you already have right now that maybe you're not thinking about? So investigate, what is your time cost of money? If it's equity, what's it cost you per month? What's that variable rate looking like? Because most are variable. If you're taking out a 401k, what's the tax consequence? If you're getting a mortgage, what's your interest rate and your payment? These are all the things we want to map out up front. But when you know all of this, and then you can study the market, and you can find that property that maybe has been lingering on the market for 2, 3, 4 months. How about 6 months? Maybe that owner is coming up an expiration date on the listing of December 31st. Maybe the agent is a little more aware that if they don't sell it this month, they're probably going to get fired or not hired again when it expired and a new agent's going to come in. And if the owner's already thinking that they ought to take a price reduction on January 1st, to maybe get the home sold next year, you can see where I'm going with this. Maybe we can imagine a price that makes sense to them that maybe lines up in the neighborhood of what they're going to reduce to. Anyways, this is how the deals are getting made right now. Client of mine, longtime friend, contacts me. I'm thinking, 3, maybe 4 days ago, we looked at properties. One day this week, they were all duds. But we went through and said, okay, what did we learn today? And based on that, we came up with literally 3 more to look at, and we found the right one. And boom, that quickly, they're under contract. They'll probably close this by the end of this year, which is great for them. It's great for the owner. Now, we could have waited another month or 2 to do it, but you don't know when the right property is going to come along. There are absolutely motivated sellers out there right now with properties that you might just like if you thought a little bit differently, investigated it, and just get out there, take a look, take a few hours of your time. You might just strike lightning in a bottle and have something really good happen for yourself. But this is how people are winning. And it doesn't have to be a lot of work if you're working with the right people, or if you're completely ready, willing, and able and prepared to take action today. You can win in this market as a buyer, even if prices are going up a little bit here and there. If rates are struggling a little bit to come down as fast as we would like it, there's still a way to get it done. If you got questions on how we can make this happen for anybody, let me know, and we'll continue to work on this particular content for everybody this year. So if you're an agent, hey, go ahead and subscribe. Use this information to help your clients. I'm totally good with that. This is my way of making sure we educate and inform and let people know exactly how deals are getting done right now that just might make sense. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate.